Welcome to the Star ODA in-house training video that will provide an overview of the ODA and explain some general processes that are applicable to the entire ODA unit. On behalf of Jeff Maskowitz, the ODA lead administrator, I'd like to familiarize you with the ODA program and how Star, as an ODA holder, operates with the ODA unit as a whole organization authorized by the FAA. As with all of the training videos that are part of the Star ODA in-house training, if you have any questions about the material provided, please email or call Jeff Maskowitz at the contact information provided. The objectives of this video are to review the ODA authority as an FAA delegation, to understand the responsibilities Star Aviation has taken on to be an ODA authorization holder, as well as to clarify what specific functions have been delegated to Star and where limitations are in place. First, let's start with reviewing what an ODA, or Organization Designation Authorization, really is. It was rolled out by the FAA in the 2005-2006 timeframe as a new delegation to organizations rather than individuals. In all honesty, though, it was just an evolution of the delegations that have been put in place over the course of history. Shortly after the agency was put in place in 1926, the need for delegating certain oversight functions was apparent, and designated engineering representatives, or DERs, and designated manufacturing inspection representatives, or DMIRs, were created in the 1940s. The value of relying on an organization rather than individuals was also recognized as the depth of resources and capability is greater. This led to the development of Delegation Option Authorizations, or DOAs, Designated Alteration Stations, or DASs, and SFAR 36 for airlines or other operators. Designated Airworthiness Representatives, DARs, and Organizational Designated Airworthiness Representatives, ODARs, came along later as more individual and organizational delegations. As the number of delegation types grew, so did the complexity of oversight and number of resources to do the job adequately. ODA was created to solve these problems by recognizing the expertise and stability an organization offers, and how processes lead to consistency and can be audited as a fully functioning system. Implementing ODA was intended to focus FAA resources on oversight efforts, provide standardization, and reduce the number of delegated entities. FAA policy has been put out showing that the FAA is given the authority to grant delegations to organizations by Title 49, Section 44702, Paragraph D. Further, the regulations that define organization delegations are captured in 14 CFR Part 183, Subpart B, which spells out all of the requirements each ODA must continually comply with. The procedures the FAA must follow to qualify, appoint, and oversee organizations in the ODA program are published in Order 8100.15. The order is currently at Revision B, Change 2, but Revision C is expected to be published sometime in 2018. With Revision C of the order, the FAA is placing more emphasis on how ODAs conduct internal audits and implement corrective actions. This will cause the Star ODA manual to be updated in the future to keep up to date with FAA changes. The FAA authorization is made to Star, the ODA holder or company as a whole. The ODA unit is essentially the compliance assurance department within Star, with a group housed in Colorado and Illinois. As a small group, communication and handoff between Colorado and Illinois efforts is pretty seamless. Sometimes it's not clear whether the company or the ODA unit is responsible for accomplishing a certain task. It's helpful to remember that the Star program manager is the representative of the applicant and responsible for making sure they show compliance to all the applicable regulations. On the other hand, the ODA project administrator is responsible as a representative of the ODA unit and is overseeing the project on behalf of the FAA to ensure all procedures in the manual are followed and that the ODA unit is able to find compliance to all applicable regulations. In addition to being the applicant for most projects Star works through, the company also has many responsibilities as the ODA holder. These are committed to within the signed Memorandum of Understanding found in Appendix B of the ODA Procedures Manual. In general, the ODA holder agrees to use processes that invoke the same care, diligence, judgment, and responsibility that the FAA would use if they were performing the same functions. The management team of Westar, to meet this commitment, is fully responsible for supporting the ODA unit by making sure they remain independent from the elements in the organizational hierarchical chain that could influence decisions made, that they don't impose policies that would be contrary to FAA policy or guidance, that they provide the resources necessary to do the right thing and then follow the processes fully, and also give the ODA administrators enough leeway and organizational authority to accomplish their responsibilities without undue pressure or conflicts of interest. The ODA lead administrator is responsible for serving as the focal point for all ODA activities. As the authorized individual overseeing all ODA tasks, this person, Jeff, the kingpin of the entire ODA, ensures Order 8100.15 requirements are met. FAA policy is followed, the ODA Procedures Manual is complied with, corrective actions are made when needed, unit members continue to meet requirements to be eligible to accomplish their functions, and that the ODA unit is sustainable through the addition of new unit members, incorporation of improvements identified from internal audits, and knowing when changes affect how the ODA operates so that the FAA can be properly notified. It's a big role. ODA administrators or someone like Mark Reynolds are in place to oversee the certification project work for the ODA, those finding compliance and ensuring the regulations are being fully met. In filling this role, the ODA administrators are also responsible for coordinating with the FAA, managing the performance of the unit members accomplishing the authorized functions, verifying the FAA directives are being used properly, and signing forms needed to authorize certain ODA actions, as well as being the final project approval go-to person, making sure the forms wrap everything up properly. Mark also helps with annual reviews, so supports the ODA beyond project work. Currently, the Star Aviation ODA has Supplemental Type Certificate, or STC, authority, where all of the functions are defined in Table 2.1 of the manual. From Order 8100.15, Westar is able to accomplish all functions associated with STC projects, minus the ones associated with military, primary category, or restricted category aircraft. Limitations are also defined in the same table. Westar projects are allowed on the aircraft models listed in the 004-0501-003 model list. If airworthiness limitations are changed or new items added to the ICA, the ACO will need to approve it. Special airworthiness certificates can only be issued for research and development, show compliance, crew training, or market surveys. Westar is only able to approve data associated with major repairs and alterations for STCs the company holds or for articles it manufactures. Beyond those limitations, the ODA cannot perform any function that's considered inherently governmental, like interpreting the airworthiness standards, granting equivalent levels of safety, changing a Master Minimum Equipment List, or MMEL, eliminating or revising AFM limitations that were put in place to address an airworthiness directive, or AD, or approving any alteration that may affect any AD requirements. The ODA can't finalize issue papers, grant exemptions or special conditions, or make Part 34 or 36 compliance findings. Unit member responsibilities within the ODA structure are discussed in more detail in the video module regarding specific unit member authority. In general, unit members are expected to meet the defined qualifications, comply with the ODA Procedures Manual, and cooperate with the FAA whenever the opportunity presents itself. Additionally, unit members are expected to ensure their work is accurate and correct within the functions that have been authorized, and also help develop new unit members by serving as a mentor or an evaluation panel as part of the selection process. The ODA operates by having qualified individuals available to perform the delegated functions and must always have this expertise available. The capabilities that are required for the ODA to operate are defined in Appendix D. A unit member will know what their authorized functions are by referring to the ODA unit listing. The FAA would like each ODA to develop and grow its unit member talent without FAA intervention, so it requires each organization to have their own selection, oversight, and termination processes. Similar to the procedures that the FAA uses from Order 8100.8, Westar will evaluate unit member applications to determine if a person meets the qualifications necessary to fill that role. Each candidate that is recommended to the ODA lead administrator will go through an evaluation panel for final determination of whether the applicant meets all qualifications. Unit members can expand their authority following a similar process. For individuals interested in becoming a unit member, you may be not quite meeting all the requirements just yet. So Westar has established a trainee program to further develop that expertise. Start by discussing your interests with your supervisor to set up a plan. Work with a mentor and record the work you do that will substantiate your experience. As a trainee, you can use an 8100-9 form to indicate that you have reviewed a document, not approved or recommended approval, as a unit member trainee. The mentor should sign this form to indicate their review. The ODA is responsible for overseeing unit member performance. Each unit member is responsible for completing an annual summary of the work they accomplished and providing it to the ODA lead administrator. Work will be reviewed to ensure all performance continues to meet the regulatory requirements. If an issue arises, OLA may elect to counsel a unit member, offer additional training, reduce workload, or find a mentor with more experience. There are also times when a unit member may be terminated for performance reasons, or in response to a request from a unit member. If a unit member is terminated for performance reasons that could not be resolved, he is required to coordinate with the FAA. As the FAA relies more and more on organizations to perform delegated functions, they want to see ODAs discover any issues that may exist and fix them without being corrected. Kind of like the phrase, doing the right thing when nobody is watching. This is what they consider a key component to being a healthy organization. Westar is required to conduct annual self-audits to verify the ODA holder and ODA unit are meeting their responsibilities. Last year, Westar brought in an outside party to offer a fresh perspective along with 2 other unit members. They spent 3 days looking at samples of the work accomplished. All of the results from the audit inspired the changes made to the procedures manual. ODA unit member performance evaluations fall under the self-audit, but are conducted during a different time period. Usually this is accomplished as a peer review. Other aspects of the ODA, such as facilities, records, and following all the administrative steps defined in the manual, are also looked at. When a finding is discovered, the ODA will analyze the issue to determine the cause, develop a corrective action plan, and follow through until the resolution has been fully implemented. The FAA has begun to issue scorecards to ODAs to show how well they're performing from their perspective in certain key areas. The number of discrepancies found and corrected, along with how long it takes to make corrections, are a significant piece of how well an ODA is scored. As we bring this ODA overview to conclusion, the points to remember include understanding that ODA is a FAA delegation to an organization, not an individual. Westar has authority to accomplish all functions associated with issuing STCs, and as a unit member, ensure you understand what's in the procedures manual process and follow it. The current Revision C, which was approved by the FAA on March 3, 2017, should be in your possession. If you don't have a copy or have any questions about any material covered in this video, please contact Jeff via email or phone.